The tail end of this week was a rough weekend for Trump. Trump has a temporary loss in the Supreme Court, and I do mean temporary because I believe long-term he's going to win this, but we're going to go into him being reversed by the Supreme Court in a vote from 7-2 with the two good Supreme Court justices, Clarence Thomas and Alito, defying it and saying that Trump should be able to deport those illegal gang members. And the other 7 women on the Supreme Court said that Trump shouldn't be able to deport them using this Aliens Act. We're going to get into the details. Welcome to In Exile.
There's some breaking news to tell you about from the United States Supreme Court. Moments ago, in a 7-2 decision, the justices blocked the Trump administration from deporting a group of Venezuelan migrants under the Alien Enemies Act. It is a complicated ruling, with the court asking a lower court to make some big decisions, but it is nonetheless a legal setback for the Trump administration, who wants to use the Alien Enemies Act to deport more migrants without standard due process.
Hope you guys will subscribe if you like this kind of content, where I'm going to keep you guys posted on the entire Supreme Court argument on this, because it ain't over, and I'll explain. Here's Stephen Miller on Twitter. Weird how the Supreme Court never ruled that Biden couldn't import vast armies of illegal alien invaders. Here's the blaze. Supreme Court rules 7-2 against Trump administration summarily deporting alleged Venezuelan gang members under the Alien Enemies Act. Just because Trump can't deport them under the Alien Enemies Act doesn't mean he might be able to deport them for different reasons. Supreme Court of the United States, Donald Trump, President of the United States, per curiam, this is yesterday afternoon, President has invoked the Alien Enemies Act to remove Venezuelan nationals who are members of the Tren de Agua, a designated foreign terrorist organization. See presidential proclamation. Applicants are 2 detainees identified as members of the Tren de Agua and a punitive class of similarly situated detainees in the Northern District of Texas. All of the alleged TDA members in the putative class are currently being held in U.S. detention facilities. In the application before the court, the detainees seek injunctive relief against a summary removal under the AEA. This is all just a giant political clusterfudge. These men are being used by the Democrat Party to keep Trump from deporting all illegal aliens. We need to deport 11 million of them. And the Democrats are not going to let us remove even these 13 illegal, monstrous gang members, women abusing gang members. So this is a temporary win for them, but I'll show you how this is not the end of the story. Here's Mike Davis with just a few points to back it up. He says, let's get this straight. Obama can drone strike Americans, but Trump can't repel foreign terrorists. Biden can import over 10 million illegal aliens, but Trump can't send them home without years of court process. The American people never agreed to this, not at our founding, not after the Civil War, not any time since then, certainly not in the last election. The Supreme Court is heading down a perilous path of their undermining their own credibility. This is clearly not the will of the people. They're overstepping their jurisdiction. Let's go to the SCOTUSblog, one of my favorite blogs, slightly right-leaning on the Supreme Court. Supreme Court again bars Trump from removing Venezuelan nationals. This is written by Amy Howe, came out yesterday. The Supreme Court on Friday afternoon extended its ban on the removal of the United States of the Venezuelan men currently in immigration custody to the northern region of Texas in an 8-page unsigned opinion. The justices sent the case back to a federal appeals court for another look and blocked the Trump administration from removing any of the men from the United States under an 18th century wartime law until the appeals are resolved. So this kind of gives you a clue on what the Supreme Court was thinking and how it's not they're supporting illegal aliens. They're supporting what the 7 of 9 justices are saying. They're just supporting a lower court's decision, saying you have to send it back down to the lower court and go with their decision. Now it's going to be in Texas, and that lower court is probably going to agree with Trump and say that he does have the right to deport them under this act. But they don't want to go over the lower court's heads. Now, I'm not saying they're good in that. It does not mean what the media is going to say it is, that Trump did something unconstitutional. That's not true. I'll read one more paragraph of this article before we move on. The court instructed the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit to determine the kind of procedures to which detainees are entitled to challenge the removals. But it indicated that the procedures that the government used in April when it was ready to carry out the removals before the Supreme Court stepped in were not enough to satisfy the Constitution's guarantee of fair treatment, even for these illegals. Justice Sam Alito dissented from the court's order in a 14-page opinion joined by Justice Clarence Thomas. In Alito's view, the Supreme Court had, quote, no authority issue any relief. I agree with that opinion, of course. Here's Joe Biden. When the Supreme Court came out against him on forgiving student loans, this is what he said of the Supreme Court. Remember when Democrats set this precedent? He's arguing this is a precedent set by Joe Biden. Ready? Should Trump do this with the Supreme Court?
Supreme Court blocked me from relieving student debt, but they didn't stop me. So far, I've relieved student debt for nearly 5 million Americans. A significant number of black borrowers. So you can chase your dreams, start a family, buy your first home, start a business, and so much more. And guess what? It grows the economy. It strengthens the economy. I'm going to keep it going. The promise made is a promise kept, and we're speaking to the courts.
Okay, the Supreme Court blocked him, but it didn't stop him. Is it Trump's turn now, Democrats? The Supreme Court stopped him, but he shouldn't block him. Here's a great burn by Ann Coulter. I love this one too. This is do what Harvard does, Mr. President. Say absolutely that you're complying with the Supreme Court, and then go ahead and do whatever you want to do. She means the way that Harvard has said that they will no longer use racial preferences in their admissions of students at Harvard, and then they go ahead and ignore them. Or they say that they will follow the president's orders to not use DEI hiring of their faculty and student standards. And then they go ahead and do whatever they want. Coulter's going, just do the same thing. Just tell the Supreme Court, oh yeah, you're compliant. You will not deport them. And then deport millions and millions of illegal aliens. That's the wonderful Ann Coulter's opinion on the subject. What do you guys think? This is really a tough one. Trump has said that he would not defy the Supreme Court. Been asking him about that for the last month. He will go along with them. Does he do it? Does he go along with the Supreme Court? Should he defy them, or should he let this legally play out? This is a question of what is the Supreme Court's hold. You can't have unelected Supreme Court justices overthrow the will of the people. But the will of the people cannot vote for things, or Trump can't execute on things that are unconstitutional. So that's where the battle is. I think this develops further. I actually think clearly Trump has the constitutional duty to protect this country and deport these illegals. Like everyone said, the Supreme Court didn't get involved when Biden let us be invaded by people, busting our borders down, pushing through our guards, and coming in by the millions. We saw hordes of them pour over. And the Supreme Court didn't step in and say, rule of law, we're a nation of a rule of law. Biden, you have to stop. No, they were silent. They only say something when it's time to deport those illegal people. And that is absurd. We'll just have to keep a watch on this. This is going to develop further. I'll do way more Supreme Court stuff for you guys this coming week. Hope you subscribe. 4 videos a day is what we do on Doug in Exile.